Could the police be held liable for making lawful arrests? Well, the United States Supreme Court is deciding that right now, and I'm going to break it down for you. Now, this might be one of the most critical, most important cases the Supreme Court has ever heard, because it goes directly to the heart of public safety. Police officers on patrol responding to calls for help. The case at issue is an incident in Washington, D.C., where police were called at about 1 a.m. to a wild party. Neighbors called 911, probably couldn't sleep, heard this crazy noise and all this insanity coming from this house, and police respond. When they get there, they find bottles and garbage and used condoms strewn about. They see women with cash stuffed into their thongs, and the smell of weed is permeating the air. Now, look, I wasn't there. I didn't speak to any of the responding cops, but having responded to similar incidents, I'm guessing the cops were thinking prostitution, drug dealing, and all sorts of other nefarious activities. So they start asking who's throwing the party. Some people said they were invited by a woman named Peaches. Others gave different stories. So the cops get a hold of Peaches, who admits she invited some people but did not have permission to use the home. They then hunt down and speak to the owner of the home, who says, no, none of these people had permission to use my house. So the police do what the police are supposed to do. They arrest the people for trespassing, and that's the heart of the case. 16 of those arrested later sued the police and won. They were rewarded over $1 million for having their rights violated by the police because they claimed, the plaintiffs, that they didn't know they weren't allowed to be in the home. Now, look, I have no problem with their criminal charges being dropped, but the police did what they were supposed to do. Holding them personally liable is insanity. It's insanity, especially in light of them getting in touch with the owner of the home who said, those people are not supposed to be in my home. Trespassing is a crime. The man was right, and the police were right. But a liberal judge, our liberal activist judicial system decided, no, we're going to award the people who broke the law $1 million and penalize the police. And that's the issue the Supreme Court is hearing right now. Whether or not the police should be held liable for making lawful arrests on good information, on a homeowner saying, that's my home, get them out of there. They're there illegally. This is really, really disturbing stuff. Now, we got an indication of the way the lefties on the Supreme Court were going to rule during arguments. Liberal Justice Stephen Breyer called it the Middle Ages. He said it's a Middle Ages type mentality to think that partygoers should know who owns the home. The Middle Ages. To be responsible enough to know if you should or shouldn't be in a home or if you are in that home legally. He thinks that's the Middle Ages. God help us. Elena Kagan, another lefty on the Supreme Court, bragged about going to similar parties. But Justice Sonia Sotomayor takes the cake because she did what the left always does. She infused racial identity politics and virtue signaling in. She said, well, if these were wealthy white kids, they never would have been arrested. Give me a break. This was a predominantly black area. The arrestees, yes, were black, but so were the 911 callers, the neighbors being inconvenienced. I find Justice Sotomayor's comments racist. What is she implying? That black residents don't want the same peace and quiet at 1 a.m. that white residents do? It's ridiculous. And it's embarrassing to have that come from a Supreme Court justice. But the more dangerous precedent here is that this now incentivizes, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of this insanity, which I don't predict they will. I think the Supreme Court will realize the public safety implications and toss this thing out on its head where it belongs. But hypothetically, if they did, the public safety implications are devastating because there's already precedent. There's legal law, there's case law that says the police have no duty to protect you. It's an appellate case out of Washington, D.C. It's Warren v. District of Columbia. And in short, it says the police have no legal duty to protect you. So now let's assume the Supreme Court upholds this nonsense and they say police can be held liable even when they do their jobs right, in line with that state statutes. You're a responding police officer. There's a situation where you can arrest, but you're not sure if the offender is aware that they broke the law, but they did break the law according to the statute. Are you going to take action if one option is take action, make the arrest, potentially be sued, lose your pension, lose your home and go bankrupt and not be able to feed your family, or not get out of your vehicle and be shielded from liability by Warren v. District of Columbia. I think most police officers are going to stay in their cars. And I can tell you in the big cities, the unions are going to tell them to do exactly that. Don't jeopardize your pension. Don't jeopardize your paycheck. Don't jeopardize feeding your family. Don't jeopardize your home, and don't go into bankruptcy and potentially be charged criminally. Stay in your car because in your vehicle, not helping anybody, you're shielded from liability. That's how dangerous of a precedent this could set. That's how dangerous. Public safety will absolutely break down. And cops I know are beside themselves. I spoke to a few this morning. One good friend of mine, highly decorated detective. He said this flies in the face of everything we learned in the academy and on the street. Another one told me, I don't know why anybody would want to be a cop in this environment. And a third friend of mine said, yeah, well, protect and serve has become cover your own ass. And they're right. They're 100% right. I feel the same way. This is absolutely tragic. And the mere fact that a court somewhere allowed this, a court somewhere found the police liable for lawfully doing their jobs, is further evidence of the left's war on police. It's ridiculous. And all of society suffers. If you like this content, if you find it important, please sign up for a premium subscription at www.therebel.media/shows. I'm John Cardello. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Have a great one.